Good afternoon, and thank you so much for coming.
It's amazing.
My name is Heather Thompson. I'm Director of Alumni Relations here at UW Superior. The Alumni Association is thrilled to partner with the Link Center and the Center for Continuing Education today on this 4-part speaker series. Today we have 3 amazing alumni here to talk about their experiences and how it pertains to 2 of the NACE competencies, teamwork and equity and inclusion. Today we have Paul Winterscheid, class of 2003. Paul is a patrol captain with the Superior Police Department. We also have Jen Bird, class of 2001 and 2004. Jen is Assistant Dean of Students here at UWS. And we have Mary Anderson Petrosky, class of 91 and 01. Mary is Assistant Principal at Superior Middle School. I'm going to hand the mic over to Liza Shellquist, Career Development Manager at UWS and Superior alum, class of 2019. Liza is going to provide an overview of the NACE competencies and today's core skills.
Thanks, Heather. Hi, thank you so much for joining us today. And like Heather said before, I help our students explore major and career paths, build the core skills needed for the workplace, and connect our students to jobs and internships through Career Central events. Today we are learning about the NACE core competencies. NACE is a national association that has collected 8 essential skills for both employers and colleges. So when you're developing and articulating proficiencies in these skills, you are gaining a cutting edge advantage when it comes time to pursue further education and employment. The NACE competencies are considered transferable skills as well. I'm going to sync over here and update our slides so you can see all of them a little bit better. So here they are, and the teamwork and equity inclusion piece is what we are focusing on today. And our amazing alumni are here to elaborate on their experience and these skills. So thank you all for being here. Professionals who practice teamwork build positive working relationships through active listening, accountability, and supporting others' strengths as well as their own. They collaborate with diverse personalities and departments to achieve common goals of an organization. Professionals who practice equity and inclusion seek experiences that enhance one's understanding of different environments, ideas, and ways of thinking. So what does that really mean though, right? What do you do to gain these skills? I have a small list of what these skills could include in your day-to-day life, but definitely are not limited to these, but you can start by just actively listening during group projects, looking for compromise and being open to alternative solutions, supporting others during challenges and celebrating successes. Studying abroad is a fantastic way to enhance some of these skills as well, where you interact with cultures different from your own. And also reflecting and inquiring in any capacity if there's ever a statement where this is how it's always been done. Question that question a little bit and think a little bit more why it's always been done that way. And is there ways to maybe be a little bit more efficient or inclusive? So identifying these skills, it takes time and practice. So it's really helpful to hear others' stories on how they've developed the skills. So please come to the Link Center for more information or keep coming to these speaker series. It's a great way to develop the skills because you're attending college campus events and you're building those skills by just attending. I'll hand it over to Heather again and our alumni to talk about the other ways that you can embody these skills. I'm going to give it to Mary.
Well, thank you again, all of you, for being here. We'll start with the questions. And, we'll begin with an introduction from each of you. If you could just share your story, your education, your career path, what experiences led you to this moment?
Sure.
So I am an alumni of this college, and I graduated with a teaching degree, and then came back for my master's as a reading specialist. I think I finished that in 2001, but since I've added principal and director of curriculum to my resume as well. I have always loved kids and teaching kids. I babysat at every opportunity I could get, starting at 12 years old. I would bring lesson plans to my babysitting gigs and have actual programming for the kids. So those kids are still in my life, of course, because that's what I loved, is the relationships with kids. So I have been at Floodwood, Renshaw, and Northwestern, landed in Superior in '98. I've taught middle school for about 17 years, high school for, probably overlapping with some of those middle school years. I've taught high school probably 10 years. I've taught some college classes, and then I've been an assistant principal at the elementary level and now at the middle school level. So I have been with kindergarten through adults and absolutely love every facet of education. What brought me also to the leadership to become a leader in education is education has taken quite, we've been rocked. Our worlds have been rocked funding wise. We used to have many people going into education, and now when we have jobs that open, we'll have very few applicants sometimes. So it's been really tough to watch as a long-term educator. And so I see my leadership role as trying to bring people into the organization and support them as much as possible to have them feel successful, want to stay and retain our teachers, the best and brightest. And I think education is the most proactive place to change the world, to change the community. If we could really front load it and meet the kids' needs, your job would be easier, probably, and other people's jobs would be easier because we would have the resources to nudge kids onto the right track and support them the way they need to be supported. So I'm very passionate about education, and being a leader in education is an honor.
Good afternoon, I'm Jen Bird, and I have been here on campus really for 26 years. I started as a student coming in, and actually came in as a vocal performance major, which has absolutely nothing to do with what I currently do. But I found through my time here and through a role of being an RA that I had some opportunities there. I actually had a supervisor who had encouraged me to consider applying here for grad school, because I was going to be a school counselor. And after I decided, I was sociology and then I went for school counseling. And while I was doing my grad program, I worked within residence life as a student development specialist and worked within the residence halls as a hall director. And I'm really fortunate, I have to say, just as a little piece of advice out there for the students, find somebody who's a mentor and a sponsor, somebody who's going to help you, mold you, see the things in you that you might not see for yourself, because that's absolutely why I am here. Otherwise I probably would be somewhere else. But I found through like my internship, don't get me wrong, I love kids and I love that you are in the school. But I found that I loved higher education, and I loved the promise, seeing people come in and their excitement. And I felt like there was a lot more ways that I could positively impact the students in this type of setting. And so I've kind of worked my way up through residence life, and then I ran first year experience here, which was a little bit more outside of the classroom in terms of or not as much direct contact with students. And I did really enjoy it, but I found that I liked more of the direct contact. And so I've come into the Dean of Students office, and I love the ability to be able to connect with students on a day-to-day basis and impact change really drastically, potentially, in their life, to make sure that things are going well for them so that they can be successful. And I think one of the other things that led me, to this role is that I've kind of found a niche here on campus, specifically at UWS. I've been here, like I said, for a long time, and this is a really special place to me. I look around and I see all the wonderful things that we've accomplished over the years. Paul and I were actually just talking about that and the changes. And it's really great to see. So not only do I love what I'm doing with the students, but I love and believe in our campus. And so hopefully wherever you end up, you can find a place that you also are really passionate about and can see a positive future for.
Great. I hate using these microphones, but we'll make it work. So my path really should start before college. So I was a non-traditional student. My parents, the best way to describe my parents growing up is they were hippies, right? And they say that 75% of your personality is developed before you're 20. So I believe I'm 75%. So I never sat foot in the classroom. I was homeschooled already. Never went to a classroom. And when I grew up out in California, moved out here in '96, and didn't really know what I wanted to do. I eventually went to an EMT course out in Ashland. And that was my first time ever in the classroom. It was like, wow, this is actually really kind of cool. So I volunteered on the ambulance service for a while on my road, and decided I really wanted to do it for a career. So I went into this WITC at the time, now Northwoods, and I did their advanced intensive care paramedic program. And that was my first, like, this is all A class sort of stuff. That was an adjustment for me because I had never done that before. And I had no idea how I would do it. I didn't have no GPA, I had no ACT scores, I had none of that. So I finished that, I did pretty well with the program. And I decided I wanted to learn more. I enjoyed education. And UWS is right here. So I'm like, how do I get to UWS? Well, back in 2000, 99, 2000, there were great pathways to get into university without any educational record involved. So there were a lot of routes to jump through, and I jumped through that out of the school. And I remember my very first semester here, I was scared to death that I would fail because I had no idea if I would do well or not. I never sat through an English course. I never sat through a math course. Non-traditional, obviously, but nothing traditional. And so I got here and I focused all of my efforts into being successful in school. Now, my parents don't have much money, so I support myself through school. So I worked 40 hours a week. And then 15 to 18 credit semesters. And I found that I really better in this campus. The campus at the time, and I'm sure it continues today, was welcoming to non-traditional students. I became involved in the Criminal Justice Honor Society, became president of that society, vice president of the Criminal Justice Student Association, and I completed the Their Scholars Program, which is a fantastic opportunity, one of the best experiences of my education. I graduated UWS here after 3.5 years of coursework. I did some courses, J-term courses, I was just on a mission. Finished up school here, graduated with a 3.7 GPA, which I'm so proud of today. So after school, I went out to Appleton and the police academy. And after graduating from the police academy, I actually got hired back here as a police officer with campus safety. So I came back here for a year, and then I went to City of Superior. And I've been there since 2005. My career there has been everything I could hope for in a career. At the time I applied, there were 300 applicants per position to recruit. Now it's about 5 applicants. Well, we get 6 positions, but super fun times. But it was really competitive. So wherever I landed with the job is where I was going to stay. And I think I like to start every day that I landed with Superior. I'm grateful for my career there. While I've been at SPD, in 2011, I became a narcotics investigator. So I worked at SPD in 2005 to 2011. Became a narcotics investigator in state and federal drug trafficking cases and cases out in Arizona. Had a lot of fun there. 2014, I promoted to sergeant, came back to the patrol division to lead the night shift, which they say is the best job in the department, and not mine. It's a great experience. So while I was a sergeant, I had the opportunity to develop the Pathways to Hope program, which is a pre-arrest drug diversion program. I was also an active instructor in firearms and defensive tactics and spent 15 years on the SWAT team. During that time, we developed some key operational philosophies to improve outcomes of critical incidents that worked out pretty well. In 2020, I promoted to captain to go to the patrol division. So right now I'm responsible for all the group for a Southern department. So it's all patrol officers, resource officers, community service officers, etc. And we work hard to engage with the community. That's a core focus of my division. Recently we launched our core plus team. We call it the Community Outreach and Response Team, which is as part of our pre-arrest deflection program that offers alternative response models that sometimes it's a matter of using the right tool for the right job. So this is a similar to them. And then most recently, I just put in my application for chief of police.
All right, thank you, everyone. We're going to move to our topics, teamwork and equity and inclusion. First question, in your current profession, what can you accomplish as a team but would have difficulty doing on your own?
In my current role, and as you assume leadership positions in organizations, your successes are not your. You can't accomplish the things that you would accomplish as a leader, particularly at higher levels of the organization, unless you have a team that's capable of implementing those programs. Now that's true here. You know, the Core Plus team, the reflection program that relied on numerous people, numerous team members to do their part, work towards a collective goal, and now that we're able to accomplish it.
So in my current role, I have a multitude of different things under my umbrella, from orientation to commencement in terms of events. But in between, I also run a pantry. I help students in crisis or in having challenges, and then I also work with conduct. So there's really absolutely no day that I don't work with people outside of just myself. Like, yes, I can sit down with students and we can have a conversation, but ultimately, a lot of what I need to be able to do is I need to have relationships with other people on campus. Sometimes it's my own team members within the Dean of Students office. Sometimes it's somewhere else on campus that I can say, hey, you know, let's work together to make sure that this student gets the best services possible to make sure that they can be successful. Or with an event, for example, there is absolutely no way that I can host an event, you know, with 300 to 2,000 people and not have people that are helping with that. And not only with the hands, but also with the thinking and the processing, because I have, you know, we're going to get to this a little bit later, but like I have one lens, right? Like I have my lens of how I view things. And I so value when I'm in a team and I can sit down and I can say, what am I missing? You know, and then sometimes it's Heather, you know, with commencement stuff. And she's like, have you thought about this? And I'm like, no, that's a great idea. Because we want to make sure that we're getting all the things that we need to be able to have a good, successful event, but also make sure that we're being inclusive, that we're being safe, you know, all of the things that we have to keep in mind. So it really, you know, and much like Paul said, you can't accomplish it on your own. And it's super, super important that you're building those relationships and maintaining. And then on the same, you know, on the flip side, also be a good team member. So if somebody else is reaching out to you, make sure that you're offering support to other places too. You know, how can I be helpful to other places to make sure that we can maintain that relationship and keep things moving, because it's a big, big, big machine. So we need to have teamwork, absolutely.
In education, I can't go rogue very often at all. I can't do anything on my own, to tell you the truth. Even when you're making decisions, if you're making decisions about a consequence for a student's behavior, I have to get information from everyone that is involved in it. I have to work with parents. I have to make sure I'm talking to the deans, all of the kids that are involved in it. So you really never get to work alone, which sometimes makes it inefficient. Sometimes you're thinking, oh boy, this thing that you just want to make a decision and move forward is going to be much easier if I just do it myself. But I'm warning you now, working as a team is going to be so much more efficient in the long run to get the input, whether it's curriculum and the vision for curriculum or the vision for your culture as a school. We have what's called BAR right now, building assets, reducing risks, and we work as a team on all sorts of decisions. I think it's much more efficient in the long run because you make really good decisions that you're not tearing down the trust of those around you because you've got an input and you've moved slowly, you've thought, you think twice, move once kind of thing that happens every day in my life. I have to really think of all the stakeholders that need to be involved in the decisions that are being made for kids, because with kids too, if you lose their trust, the family's trust, your co-workers' trust by making decisions and working on your own, that's really hard to build back ever. You can build it back again. So it's really important that the BAR group, we get together I meet with them 3 times a week, more problem solving, everything together. So, and it feels good too, because you're really supported if you work well as a team. Nothing feels too overwhelming or daunting because you've got, I'm not in this alone. So really listen to your team and make sure that you value what they're saying by your actions, because as a leader, I can see leaders sometimes they're thinking of what they're going to say when they're listening to someone instead of truly listening and being present and trying to do what's best for that child or for the team as a whole. So when I saw the topic, Heather, I thought this is exactly what is going to be make all of you. It doesn't matter what occupation you're going to fall in. Being a really great team member is probably going to pay huge dividends for you. So I started.
So just to emphasize, to our students, our future alums, teamwork, right? Like
oh my gosh.
I mean, it's going to be a high priority for the rest of their lives, whichever organization, they land at, or, whatever they do, in their professional lives. How can a company's culture build and maintain that collaborative, relationship?
Yeah. And I guess that's what I was kind of getting into already, right into that question, is the trust. You must build and maintain trust within your team. When you lose trust, so I look at my job in education as I know probably you're going for chief, you're in a leadership, but we work for, I'm not their boss. The teacher, I'm their, I work for them. I work to try to get as much off their plate as possible so they can do the important work of being with those kids and making sure that they're being impactful. So I think it's going to be really important if you're in a leadership role, especially to make sure you're genuine, make sure your actions match your words, make sure you are listening intensely to what people are telling you. And you can't always please everyone, but you need to give them reasons why you can't make the decision that they would like you to make. And you do that by gathering and listening and being very thoughtful and focusing on what is going to be best for the kids or the organization that you work for. But I think when the collaboration breaks down is when trust is lost. And that's what I see, when trust is lost. So to keep a healthy culture, I think you also need to do fun things together. You need to make sure that you're learning about each other as people. You better know that team's personal life a bit. So you are validating them as a person, not just as the person that they are in the job. But trust, I think, for me, when I see trust is lost, the team and the culture starts to suffer. So.
Yeah, I would absolutely echo the trust piece and getting to know people. Obviously, you still have some things that you need to be able to accomplish, but just taking a little bit of time to get to know the people that you're working with. whether you're in a new setting with new people, or even, you know, some of the same people and maybe haven't connected for a while. I would also say, bring new people to the table sometimes, if you have that opportunity, or be the new person to come to the table and say, hey, I'd love to be a part of that. And I think part of the reason that that helps a company or an institution build that culture of and maintain collaboration and teamwork is because then it's not just, oh, well, that's that one group that's always making all the decisions. Then that is, you know, that point of, oh, they've actually sought out input from other folks and they've given other people different opportunities. So if you have an opportunity, if you're in the role to be able to maybe pick, you know, some people that get to be part of something, I know that's not always an option, but when you can, think about that and think about how do I bring in, and think about how you can bring in opposing views from your own. I know it's uncomfortable, but those are sometimes the best outcomes when you can get people with differing views and you can actually come to a really good solution because you kind of have to think outside the box. So definitely, you know, the trust and put yourself out there or invite other people in.
And I will certainly echo the trust component. One of the I like reading leadership books, a bunch of them audio books. Great way to read. One of the books that I like the most is the 5 Dysfunctions of a Team. They talk about it, it's from a corporate perspective. They talk about trust being the foundation of team development. Because without trust, you can't have open conflict. You can't have open, constructive conflict. If you don't trust the members of your team, you're not going to speak up. If you don't speak up, you're not going to have commitment and buy-in from the team members. If people don't feel like they're free to speak, they're not going to contribute. If people don't contribute, they're not going to buy into the goals of the team. And they're not going to share ideas that can be constructive to solve problems. If you don't have buy-in, you're not going to have accountability. If people aren't committed to the goals, if they don't feel like they have a say, if they don't trust their team members, they're not going to hold each other accountable for failing to meet the goals of the team. That's why trust is absolutely the cornerstone of teamwork.
Thank you all. What are some specific ways, and we're kind of shifting to that equity inclusion topic now, but what are some specific ways you can advocate for change within your organization?
Sure. Certainly within the police department, we have work to do, something that we recognize, and certainly the last few years have really demonstrated to us a shift where I think police departments across the country are out of alignment with the expectations of the community, and it's time for us to adjust and shift. So within our organization, I had the opportunity to attend the diversity, equity, and inclusion in the workplace courses, and I'm on the course here in WS. It was a fantastic experience, and I went into it. Yeah, I'm a really open-minded person. I didn't know what I didn't know, quite honestly, and that was the benefit of that course. Going forward, I obviously have walked the walk in my organization, talk the talk, and hold to those values. And as the training coordinator, control competence in our organizations, the training coordinator. And I've had the opportunity now to send 2 more officers, one of our sergeants and one of our officers to the current session of the course. And going forward, I will continue to send officers and supervisors to the course. In the future, it will be an expectation of all of the command staff to attend that course. And we'll continue to build that village. We'll continue to build a village of mutual understanding in our organization. That's one specifically within some change.
So here on campus, a couple of different ways that I can think of. One of the things that I always like to think about is like what's within my locus of control. And my locus of control, obviously there are certain things that I can make changes to, right, automatically, because maybe I run a program or it's the way that I do something. But other things that are within my locus of control are things like providing feedback when asked, or taking the survey, or being a part of a committee. And again, even if it sounds scary or it sounds intimidating or whatever it sounds, stepping outside of that comfort zone to be able to share the thoughts that I have. Because what I found is when you take some of those opportunities, there are actually often other people who have a similar idea. And then you can start to have this energy and this enthusiasm and making some change. So do those types of things, get involved. Over the years on campus, I've been a part of different committees and different initiatives. Sometimes I've been selected, sometimes I put myself on them. I was part of our academic staff senate, so that represented academic staff. I chaired that committee for that senate for a few years as well. Wonderful opportunity to be able to help make some positive changes for our academic staff. In terms of policies and how things like personal compensation were handled. Also just learning, like it was such an incredible learning experience for me, and it informed a lot of other things in the way that I handle things on campus. And also kind of opened my eyes to what other people were experiencing, or what some of the other challenges of other folks that I work with on a day-to-day basis were experiencing. So, you know, do some of those things when people, like I said, I know oftentimes we get surveyed, or we might feel like we're getting surveyed to death, but take that minute, take the 5 minutes, give your feedback, because your voice, it does matter, and it can impact changes that are being made. Because you're absolutely not going to have an impact if you're not going to say anything. So.
In education, first it starts with an awareness, like something's not quite right. I'll take truancy. Kids are missing too many days of school. Sometimes when you really look at the data, it doesn't pan out to be so. Have you ever had that happen where you think, this is definitely happening, and then you look at the data and it doesn't quite match up? So I start with an awareness in education, whether it's we have kids that are academically behind, or it's usually a worry. I'm worried, and then I start with the data. Go with the data. Is it true, or is it just me? I immerse myself in the situation. I try to figure out, do a deep dive, and then I try to advocate at that point, saying, okay, I am positive. This is what's going on. This year I'll just take truancy. I said, this is going on. Let's all do a deep dive together. We have 2 days of summer looking at all sorts of things for our CIP. It's continuous improvement plan. And as a team, we are looking at our data, and we now have an attendance team because they looked at it and we're like, yeah, if they're not there, everything else we're putting in place is not going to be impactful. So I start with an awareness. I go to the data. I try to immerse myself in the situation. Before then, I speak up and I start advocating for what's next, what's needed. And as a team, we're working on some really great ways to get more connection to school, more engagement with families. And we better put our, time where our, where we're asking teachers to we have now 45 minutes a week for family engagement, where they're just making calls home. We can't ask for change without giving time, energy, and sometimes money towards it. So, that's usually how that unfolds for me. That's unfolding all the time. That's what keeps me up at night. I'm thinking of all the things that I need to advocate for, and I try to make sure, though, before I move forward, the data backs it up. But I have a really great team that's like willing to dive headlong into whatever it is that needs to go next. So
I think just the little that I know of all of you, and you know, some of you I know more than others, I can really see that. Like, I can see your team, and this just speaks to this topic too, especially, you know, teamwork. When you do it, I guess, for lack of a better word, the right way, the nice way. Like, I'm looking at you, Mary, and of course your team is going to be 100% behind you, because that's who you are, you know. But it just really speaks to that point. Like, do your research, do the work, and then try to get everybody behind you in the nicest way possible, right? And, you know, you make your points, you know, your stuff, but just, yeah, I mean, build that trust, you know, get to know them, all of that stuff lends itself to just having that successful, you know, team. And so you all can touch on this a little bit, but any other advice for those that are just starting, you know, to develop their equity and inclusion, you know, awareness and advocacy, kind of like, you know, MOs, I mean.
Yeah. So I'll get into the equity and inclusion in just a moment, but one more thing about leadership is under promise and over deliver. But please do that, even though you think I'm gonna promise this and get that initial yay, and then it's the worst when you can't deliver. So under promise and over deliver. Just another suggestion, because I get very exuberant and I tend to say, and this is what's going to happen, and it doesn't. So I'm very careful about that as well, because that is a way to lose trust if you're not delivering. So the question then, Heather, is how would we promote this?
What advice do you have for, maybe our, new graduates that are looking to build their own, thoughts and perspectives on equity and inclusion?
Okay, so with equity inclusion in the school system, of course, that is, we are a public education system, so we are for every child in front of us. Our motto is all means all. That's what we live by, and it's very hard because it can be hard to deliver that. But we try our very best to make sure that we are including and creating equity for all kids. And with that, if I were new to this, I would get a deep understanding of people that need to be included and of what kind of diversity do you have, and make sure that you have a deep understanding. You will sometimes we see things through the lens of, maybe for me, it's when I went to high school or I went to middle school, or when you experience this. Don't do it through your lens or what is your world and life experiences. I would listen very deeply, try to come to the situation with a deep understanding. We have parents that often call us, and I will spend many minutes, if not hours, weekends, talking to families, trying to get a deep understanding of where they're coming from. Trying to find common ground is a really good way of coming at diversity and equity, saying, where can I build a common experience together in order to have, maybe it's a conflict that's happening, they're coming in really hot and angry. Try to find common ground to get to the understanding. And I think when you find common ground, you start saying, we have a common life experience, and you can start getting to a deeper understanding. If there's not a conflict, but you're really trying to understand where people are coming from, I think you got to live outside your own life experiences, I guess is what I'm saying, and be fully present, trying to see things, peeling back the layers and seeing where they're coming from. If you don't do that with all experiences, I think you're unauthentic. You're not authentically there. They know it, they feel it, and I don't know if you can truly build equity and inclusion if we're not genuinely. If you were just jumping through hoops and putting mission statements together and visions, or we're putting policies to place but not really in place but not following them, that is disingenuous, and that will be seen very quickly, and you might as well not have any policies in place at all. So I think as a leader, I am hypersensitive to that, because my life experiences aren't everybody else's. But I think sometimes, especially as leaders, we come to it with our own experiences, and it's hard to put those aside. So I would say, as a beginning, a person that's coming into a career for the first time, try to really live through other people's experiences to understand how to support those around you.
I definitely agree with all of that. And to build upon that, one of the things I would do is also look at your own biases and really explore your own lens. Do some self-reflection and some self-exploration to see, for Paul's words, what you know, find out what you don't know, right? And then go out and try to learn, listen to people, talk to people, ask the questions. Don't be afraid to make mistakes. I think sometimes people are held back with their learning with equity, diversity, and inclusion because they're afraid that they're going to make a mistake. We've all made mistakes, right? But also then be able to say, gosh, you know, that was wrong. You know, help them understand and be able to move forward, because I think if you can be kind of humble and be open to learning, and also be aware, you know, I think of things whenever I have a student coming into my office, for example, I have to think about the fact that I am a white, straight, cisgender, middle class, educated individual, plus all kinds of other stuff, right? That is not, you know, that's not the experience of every person that's walking in the door for me. And so I have to stop and think about am I portraying things? What is it like for them to walk into my office, first of all, you know, and then not only that, but I have a title of assistant dean. What does that put with it? So there's all these things that you have to kind of think about when you're interacting with people, and it can sound really scary, but just having, again, like that awareness, like Mary said, and like, where are you at and how might you be able to maybe put people at ease? And then also, how might you do your own learning? I'm constantly learning. I love to ask people questions. Part of what I do anytime that I'm meeting with students, for example, is like, just tell me a little bit about yourself. Help me understand, and then share some of that fun information from there. We can build those relationships and we can build the trust. And then people feel more comfortable being able to share things, and then you can work together to move things forward. If for example, if you need to advocate, you have a better understanding when you've gotten to know somebody and you've gotten to understand their perspective.
So thank you, and I agree with all of that. If I were to give some advice as you seek to expand equity and inclusion in your organization, I would say it's to give grace wherever you can. Everybody's on a journey. We're all on a journey. Nobody's perfect. I'm not perfect. There are a million points in my life that I wish I could have done things just a little bit different. Knowing what I know now, but that's not the right word. So when you see people around you making mistakes, recognize that everybody's coming from a different place. Everybody's has room to grow, and be that person to help them grow. Be that person to help show them the path wherever you can. I think that's if you want to see successful implementation of this new organizations, that's creates a non-threatening environment. The experience I had in the DEI course here, I got to admit, my first couple of days in that class, I was pretty uncomfortable. For that reason, I was afraid to say the wrong thing or do the wrong thing, make people mad. We kind of set groundworks in the class for giving each other grace and allowing us to stumble forward. I think that's we're able to kind of stumble forward with our ideas, even at the risk of being wrong or saying the wrong thing. And having that freedom to do that and grow together was one of the reasons that the cohort that we developed in that class was so tight. I've done a number of courses. I did the leadership class that's written on leadership. I did the organizational leadership certificate here. Great courses, but the cohort that we developed in the DEI course, the relationships and the collaborative work that we did there was, I can't say I've ever had an experience like that ever. And I believe it was because we showed each other grace.
Do any of you have a success story from your organization where, you know, a diversity initiative or best practice, you know, was really successful? Right? A specific, you know, example.
Yeah, I can speak to that pretty briefly. We have that coordinated outreach and response team. So basically that's a collection resource officer, a coordinated response specialist, it's a civilian member of our organization, and a certified peer support specialist. They form a team. But they'll go out and do active outreach. They'll do a number of things on the department, including incident response for things like health crisis, drug addiction issues, homelessness issues, any issue that might require some level of mediation skills. They'll go out and actually handle that call. Well, one of the things that we identified is that we don't engage with marginalized communities very effectively. So we wanted to intentionally engage. We wanted to create a way to do that. So when we look at our logo, it says core and there's a plus sign. So the word plus sign is the allied teams that support the work of Core Plus by assisting with engagement with marginalized communities. So we have a LGBTQ liaison officer program. Several of our officers are involved in that program. Now they support the Core Plus team when appropriate to improve engagement with the LGBTQ community. We're sending officers to a veteran response team training to engage with those communities. We are seeking to create a BIPOC support team to help engage with other communities working in this work. So that's a specific way that we work with our agency.
So our campus over the years that I've been here has done a lot of different things for equity, diversity, and inclusion. First of all, like I can think about when I started back here, we did have a women's resource center. Actually, I think it came about a little bit after I started here. Now we have a gender equity resource center. We have intercultural student services. We have Indigenous Cultures Resource Center. We have the Veteran and Non-Traditional Student Center, which, by the way, has had 14 years of a military-friendly school, which is pretty awesome. Not that I had anything to do with that, but I'm still really proud of our campus for that. We have our EDI department is hosting a EDI certificate that students and faculty and staff can participate in. They can do a basic level and an advanced level. I know there's a number of people for years that work to have a medicine wheel out on campus, and now it is a beautiful gathering place for folks. And there's wonderful programs that take place out there. There's also been a lot within the academic realm. I know a lot of our faculty within certain areas have worked closely with like tribal communities, because we do have so many tribal communities in the area, and trying to figure out how do we work together. So those are just a few of the things that have happened over the years. In addition to, I know a number of different policies that have been changed, some that, for example, negatively impacted international students, and how can we change those policies so that international students aren't penalized just because they're international. So there's still a lot to be done, right? Like we haven't reached our everything, because it always keeps changing. But I feel really proud of our institution for really taking a close look at EDI and really trying to make some changes.
And in regards to diversity, equity, and inclusion, we do have a director of diversity, equity, and inclusion for our district. We have reworked a lot of our responses to bullying and harassment. We take it very seriously. There's protocols, procedures that we have in place that are pretty stringent, and that feels really good, because I feel like we're standardizing it throughout our district. But on the positive, I think our organization is very inclined to be very aware of diversity, equity, and inclusion in all that we do. We team up with Douglas County Health and Human Services. We have Just Kids Dental that comes in to clean kids' teeth. We work with Mentor North to try to get mentors for our kids. They're actually going to open an office. I'm telling one of the audience members who's on the committee with me, an office right in our middle school, so we can bring that mentoring opportunities right in our building. We team with Boys and Girls Club is located right in our middle school. We have all sorts of intramurals, no cost to kids. We have transportation for kids. Even if they're less than 2 miles, we have some buses strategically placed. But working with truancy, it's always a conversation of what are the obstacles that your family's facing. And we have services for homelessness. We have services for if they need help with paying for laundry, to go to the laundromat. We have cards for gas, and if they need gas for certain situations like getting the children to school or to activities. So we're listening to families one at a time sometimes, and listening to their individual needs, and trying to take those, again, obstacles out of their way so they can access all that every child in our community should access, whether it's in school, coming to school, in school activities, or after school activities. We try really hard to make sure that the families are supported.
Well, thank you all for everything that you do for our communities, campus community, and community in general. It's amazing. So in closing, any last thoughts, advice, etc. How have you exercised these two competencies, teamwork and equity and inclusion, throughout your career journey? Really, why is it so important for, our future alumni to have these competencies, in their wheelhouse?
Yeah, and I guess I've kind of said it throughout this question answer session, but I think teamwork and having your eye on inclusion and equity and diversity, it's going to, we can't do this alone. We can't do this alone. And we can't also say, I'm only going to do this certain group of people. I think we need to, again, live outside our own life experiences, our own, what are our biases? What is it that we're thinking about that person as a team member or through the diversity, equity, and inclusion lens? And really see them as a human being, find common ground, because we need each other. We can't do this alone. We can't do life alone. We need each other. And I truly believe that we are stronger together. And if we can believe that, truly believe that to our core, I think we get great results. And in education, we're getting great results for kids, which is so inspirational when you see that happening.
So with teamwork, I think about the fact that generally speaking, in an organization, or in my case, an institution, we are all here for the same goal, right? Like, our goal is to serve our constituents, which are our students, and make sure that they are well served, successful, as to at least help in success. I know we can't guarantee everybody's success, but do what we can to make sure that they get their education, and also support their person, right? Because they are a whole human being coming to us. So we have to have a teamwork, because if we're constantly just fighting each other, we're not actually moving towards our goal. And that's not to say that there's not going to be times when that doesn't happen. We all know that probably does happen, and we have little things where we have to kind of square things off and figure it out. But ultimately, remembering why we're all here, remembering why you're in that team that you're on, what is the purpose? It is, and sort of cliche, there's no I'm a team, right? Like, we're here together because we have a common purpose and a common goal. So in terms of like equity, diversity, and inclusion too, I don't think that you can do quite honestly, I don't think anyone can do their job without trying to keep that lens, because everybody who comes in the door is going to have something different that they're bringing to the table, whether that's their ability, whether that's their background, whether that's their socioeconomic status. So, being able to have that lens of that understanding of people and kind of trying to see things, see people for who they are, and what they have to offer, and then being able to help, ourselves learn so that we can better interact with people. So I think it's absolutely something that I do on a regular basis, or I try. Do I do it effectively all the time? Probably. There are times, I know there's times that I have not, and I try to learn from that then and say, okay, how can I do better next time? So I try to take the things that I learn also, whether it be through an experience or through a training or whatever, and use that information to inform what I'm doing. So don't just have lip service to what don't just go and do a training just to say, oh, I did this training. What can you take from that training and how can you apply it to your job? And so that's stuff that I think that I do to help show my competency, because I take it and then I try to apply it in a way that's meaningful and that's going to improve, something for somebody. So
thank you. I have 4 o'clock engaged with the rest of my team who is down the hall, and they are getting a little panicky right now. In closing, I would just say that if you were to put a bunch of carrots in a pot and cook them, it would be a pretty boring meal, right? It's not going to be a very creative meal. You need ingredients. You need people who bring diverse experiences, diverse ideas that are different from your own based on the path that they walk. You need those people in the organization. We realize that. Organizations across the country realize that now. We need that diversity. We need that perspective. That's not our own. Otherwise, we kind of become an inbred organization. It's not what we want. You need to create an environment that allows people to express themselves. It's one thing to have all that diverse experience in your organization, but if they're too afraid to say anything, it does no good. We need to make sure that we have a space for them. We need to intentionally do that. So I just want to say I really appreciate the opportunity to come here and speak with everybody and share these thoughts. Thank you very much.
So we'll open it up for questions. I don't know if any of you have questions, and then yeah. And if anyone online has questions, please feel free to add it to the chat. We'll take a couple minutes for that. Mel, did I see your hand up? Just putting you on the spot. Well, I'm not seeing anything online here. So I think we're good. Thank you so much.